Hi everyone.
Hello. How are we?
Welcome along. Before we go any further, I just want to thank you so much for coming. A couple of quick housekeeping things. Feel free to take photos, you already are. But if you could refrain from filming the whole thing, because we are being filmed, and we will make that available to you to see very soon. So before we say anything else, let's say big welcome to Mark Knopfler.
It's far too early for that.
Yeah,
you don't want to
don't peak too soon. Happy release day.
Thank you.
How are you on release days? Are you like a sort of nervous father, or is it all done and dusted by then? And
I couldn't. I wish I was, but I'm curiously not excited. It's. I think it's probably because it's happened plenty of times before, and
yeah. Also, the record. I mean, these songs have been with you for a long time, haven't they?
Yeah,
they're new to us.
That's right, and I think this one even longer than normal because of what? Because of what? Because of the pandemic?
Yep.
Because of... Did you have COVID, Paul?
Yeah, I did once back in the dim and distant. I don't talk about it.
Okay.
No, it was fine. I mean, we all suffered, didn't we? But I remember you guys had to curtail operations, didn't you, for a long time at British Grove?
Yeah. But we lost a very valuable member of the manager
David Stewart,
of the studio. So we actually, at the beginning, it was scary. Yeah. London was a scary place. Have you come from all over the place? I guess you have. Yeah.
He's like the Queen, isn't he? Have you come far?
It's like the Queen.
Yeah. Anyway, One Deep River, congratulations, it's wonderful. How many of you have heard it already? I'm sure you've been listening to it so far, haven't you? There you go. It's been out for a matter of hours and people know it already.
I had fun. Anyway,
yeah.
Yes, I just meant to say, Paul, I had a lot of fun doing it because, first of all, it's great when you've got a band as good as the one that I've put together over the years, and to have a partner in working in Guy Fletcher, because Guy is a fully trained. I was going to say camera operator, but he's not. But although he is actually, he can.
Does that too.
Guy could do anything if he put his mind to it, and he's a good photographer. Actually, he is.
Yeah.
But he's a trained recording engineer, So he started off doing that, and staying, the long nights in the studio, so he slept, in the days when there were carpets in the studio, studios. Guy learned to sleep under the recording console on late nights, late nights recording. That's what a lot of the assistant engineers and kids would do. Young engineers would often sleep under the console because it was a warm place.
Yeah.
And they'd crawl underneath the desk, sleep there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, we're all wondering, the guitar auction, Guitar Heroes, the new album, Breakfast Television, all of that, a new TV series with Brian Johnson. For somebody who likes being low profile, you've turned into Mr. Showbiz lately, haven't you?
Yeah. It's like 4 buses coming along at once, And it really wasn't designed to happen like that at all. It really wasn't. So you'll have to believe me if I tell you that it was not designed that way. And it's Paul Crockford here,
I think he probably claims to be.
Don't know where he is.
In the wings somewhere, yeah.
He is. He's probably eating all the food.
Yeah, that's right. Which I said to him, leave some for us.
But you'd have to ask him whether he's part of his grand management design, but I don't think it was. I really think it just happened.
It's all
Where
planned.
are you? That's your voice.
Oh, that.
It was all planned. It was not, was it, Crocs?
It was, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, management.
He's just angling for a Manager of the Year award.
Paul Crockford of Lucky Management.
Yes. But the great thing about it is everyone's, very aware. Here we are on release day, and you can tell there's such anticipation for this record. And you've been... Yeah, sure. No, I'm being sincere. Believe me. And you've been so productive. I mean, songwriting, whereas a lot of people, who've been writing for a long time, maybe slow down a little bit as time goes by. You're sort of surprising yourself by how productive you still are.
Yeah, well, I think I had songs, years and years ago. Somebody reminded me of it today or yesterday. Do you remember a song called One More Matinee?
Yeah.
And about it goes, we're proud to be the oldest ugly sisters in variety. There's not the glamour now, you see what happened to society. And that was from an interview that I did when I was a kid reporter on the Yorkshire Evening Post in Leeds. And I was sent to the theatre, to the City Varieties Theatre, and I was sent to go and interview the cast of the pantomime, Cinderella 60, whatever it was called. And I went and I was interviewing the Ugly Sisters, was one of the things that stood out in my mind. And I wrote it down, because I could do shorthand back then. Yeah. And I remember the line, we're proud to be the oldest ugly, where are the oldest ugly sisters in variety? There's not the glamour now, you see what happened to society. And I remember writing those lines. And I didn't think about it was be a song, but then I realized after the piece came out in the newspaper and stuff that maybe I was becoming a songwriter, slowly becoming a songwriter. And I thought maybe that'll be a song one day. And then we go forward a few years to what was the one with the jet on the top?
Sailing to Philadelphia?
Sailing to Philadelphia. I came out on that album.
Yeah.
So I'm slow.
Yeah, that's 30 years or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it takes me a long time. I remember Rudiger, I've told people this before, but that song Rudiger about the autograph guy, I'd written every word of it, and it stayed in my book. Didn't have any music, and it just stayed in it. It stayed like a lyric for year after year after year after year, and then suddenly the music came along and said hello, and it must have been years because it was inspired a little bit because John Lennon had been murdered on the street, and then I saw this weirdo, and straight after that. And, with a long Mac on and specs and, really, really odd little briefcase. And he could have had a pistol in there, I don't know. I mean, he was just terrifying. Oh, Mr. Knopfler, And, what is you, Mr. Knopfler? And anyhow, he freaked me out a little bit. And I said, what's your name? He said, Rudiger. And so this character just wrote this song, Rudiger, but it was 20 years after that. Yeah. So again, all I'm trying to say in a slow way is that I am slow.
Has that happened with this record? Are there any little snippets that have been around for a long time? Or
Exactly. Yeah. That's why we're talking about it, I think. I think that's why we're talking about it. Yeah. Why did it take so long? Yeah, because some of those songs, and why so many songs, I think because I've probably got some of those songs be sitting around for a while, getting cobwebs on. And that's what it's like.
Is it always the lyrics that are sitting around for a long time? That's what you'll have had first, probably. And then add the music props in later?
Yeah, probably would be lyrics more than and other stuff. Yeah, probably more.
Yeah, because there's some. I mean, lyrics are always extremely important to you, and not just the lyrics, but the way they scan. I always think, and the exact choice of words. I mean, as a writer, do you agonize over that stuff? Is there the sort of long search for exactly the right word sometimes?
Agonize is the wrong word, just because I enjoy songwriting so much that, if it's not working, I just get up and leave it. And leave it. Yeah. And I know it'll be all right if I come back to it. So eventually, 20 years later, maybe, it'll work out. It'll work out. It's something will happen that'll save it somehow. And that's so I suppose I'm being lucky that way, is that I don't let anything immobilize me. I don't let anything like that. It's like, even the whole business of we were just talking about this, the music business, and there's music and there's the music business, and they're two separate things. And I try not to go near the music business, but you shouldn't just try not to get too hung up about it, and it's easy to let yourself be immobilized, and I've never done that.
Yeah. There are some lyrics on this album that I think are quite personal. You may not spell things out as such, but there are things that relate to your life and your past. There's a couple of songs about leaving.
Oh yeah.
Watch Me Gone being one, and
that's
Before My Train Leaves.
Yes, yeah. Before My Train Comes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd never write Before My Train Leaves.
I did that on purpose, just to make sure he was paying attention.
But I think you are a fine writer, Paul.
Apart from the odd word.
Yeah. So, Watch Me Gone is, I'm just laughing at myself in a way, in a way, the same way as I was really when I wrote Romeo and Juliet. It's a way of looking back and realizing, you get to a time when you look back and you realize you can laugh at it, you can smile about it. And there's a line in that song about, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to hit the road with Bob, or hitch a ride with Van. It's all going to happen, and I'll be a happening man. Yeah. Well, it all happened. It all happened, but, and God must still be laughing at a boy and his plans, and, because if that's the old saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And I had those kind of plans, and I got kind of knowledge that it was all going to go somewhere, and it was making me think of the frustration of a lot of years being this rather comical figure. I think I probably was slightly obsessed, maybe more than slightly obsessed. I don't know. But I was obsessed, I suppose, and you need the desire to get there and to try to make it all work, and bands are a pain in the arse, you've got to, it's like herding cats sometimes, and you've got to really want to be there. But I think journalism was a bit like that, just to get into that game, and it's suddenly reminded me of, I was sitting in the photography department waiting for a photographer and talking to somebody, and an old timer and I was 20 years old, I must have been 21, 20, and I said, and this old boy said to me, "Yeah, Mark," I said, "I remember Peter O'Toole. He used to work in here." He said, one day he came in and he said, "All right, Tony, I'm away to London to be an actor. Bye-bye." And that was Peter O'Toole. And it was one of those kind of moments, for me, leaving and having to go. go. So that song is partly about that, I suppose.
Yeah. There's also a wonderful story song on this album, which is based on the research, which we were talking the other day about Mark's skills as a researcher, and you said you're rubbish. You just don't do any deep research. But the track I'm talking about is Tunnel 13, which is such an amazing story. It's based in truth, and then it relates forward to you, doesn't it? And to guitars.
I mean, I was. I'd gotten into this guitar builder a little bit because I'd been using one of his little guitars to make this record. And I had 4 or 5 songs already, and I'd played and sung the songs, and I was into them with Guy, and just even before the band came at them, and I just carried on using this little guitar, and it was made by a guy that used to repair them. It's often always the case that builders begin as repairers, and he'd been repairing for my pal Rudy, actually, in New York, and he was from Oregon. Anyhow, I'd got this guitar, and I was reading up about the area of the woods and this and that and the other, because Butch, that built the guitar, he'd started making guitars out of the redwoods, the beautiful sequoia trees, and they're protected now, but they used to use them to prop up the tunnels that made the railroads and the mountain railroads, and it went all the way up through California and up into the mountains, and from LA, from California, and so anyhow, I was just reading idly about the history of the woods and how old this wood could be sometimes, and a little bit about builders and how they hunt for wood and this and that and the other. And I came across this story of a train robbery that had happened there, but up in Oregon, and in the Siskiyou Mountains, and the builder of these guitars actually used a little line of the Siskiyou Mountains as his little logo on the 12th fret of his guitars, and it's a notorious crime because they thought that the train was going to be loaded with gold, and turned out there was nothing, and they blew the train up. They shot and killed 4 innocent men. Horrible crime. And it just struck me that now, because I was looking at the beautiful wood that had been used to make this beautiful guitar that was now appearing, in front of me, and my coming through the mail, I already had a little mahogany one. I was always playing a little mahogany guitar by the same guy, but he was making tops, new guitars with tops of this redwood, and to me, it was just the contrast, really, of the horrendous crime, premeditated crime. And I was looking for a motive, and all of the rest of it. Yeah. And but that was the contrast more than anything, just the horrendous crime and the beauty of the wood, itself.
Yeah. So when a song like that arrives, do you have a sound in your head? Do you know, for example, which guitar type of sound you might want?
No, I'll for the song there probably will be an acoustic, and I'll just try 3 or 4. This is when I'll be in maybe with Guy before the band's in, so I'll try 3 or 4 acoustics, and there'll be a winner, and it will be kind of obvious for the song which one seems to want to speak better than the others,
A voice, there's one louder voice, the guitar voice, than all the others.
Yes, normally. And that's right, and it's the same as, and Guy and I talk about the little voice quite a lot, because you've got to try to be honest with yourself when you're listening to something and you walk away from it, and is there a little voice telling you anything about this song? It's no damn good, Yeah. It's not, something's not working here. Or you've got to be kind of brutal about that. And I think, somebody wanted to ask me a question today about how do you choose a
I've got some
a
of them
song,
here.
and I looked at it, and it's a good question because I thought, how do you choose what song goes on the record? And I'm not sure I know, but I think there's a little voice that just keeps on telling you that that's a better song maybe than the other one. As it is, I'm totally helpless anyway because the greed of the business and management and, is that you have to bring it out anyway, that it'll come out anyway. Because when I did tell my manager, the noble character that I'm talking about, that I said, I've got more songs. Now this would be not even this album, but the one before. He said, more songs is good.
Yeah.
How's more songs? What's good about that? And then it turns out that I get an education then in how it is good, and I probably partly won over. Thanks, Paul.
So yes, you've learned about bonus tracks, haven't you? Basically,
bonus tracks and things for tracks for and so and tracks for somebody else.
Yes,
and little deals that go on.
And so many extra tracks that you have, in addition to the album, you have an EP coming out.
Yeah, I've got an EP coming out now.
Yeah. The boy.
I like EPs, and I was brought up on EPs with 3 or 4 songs on. I like EPs, and on my mantelpiece, I've got 3 EPs. I've got the Shadows' first EP with Hank playing the red guitar, which is why my guitar had to be red, and then the Everly Brothers. Yeah, being a fan of the Everly Brothers did nothing for my singing at all. But I've got an Everly Brothers EP and Lonnie Donegan EP, Battle of New Orleans. And, so all these bad influences I had from a very, very early age when I was still in short trousers and, knew absolutely nothing about the music, just that I loved it.
Got 1 or 2 other fan questions here. So that one about the how do you choose which track was from Stephen Flynn. Stephen, are you here today? Not sure whether you guys are here. There we are, right at the back.
Thanks
Just want to do a name check for you. This next one's from Colin Sherlock. Colin, you all right? There you go.
Hello, Colin.
Which is, if you could play guitar in any band in history, which one would it be?
Oh.
I'm guessing the Shadows, but I might be wrong.
No, I don't think so. I think I'd gotten to love. I mean, I was so by the time I was 20 or 21 or 22, I think I was 23 maybe. I become such a Van Morrison fan, from as well as obviously Dylan fan and all of that. And so Van would be playing records. I'd have Van Astral Weeks playing in the kitchen. I'm sure a lot of you been the same, and whatever it would be. And I went to see Van with the Caledonia Soul Orchestra in Newcastle City Hall. This is where I first saw my first rock and roll show. Saw Chuck Berry on an unforgettable evening. I was a convert, captive from that point. No, I didn't need much converting. I was always so into it. But the Van Morrison show with the Caledonia Soul Orchestra were great, and Van was in great form. And that's 1973, I think, and so that would have been the band. And they had a guitarist called John Platanier. And you remember these little details of things like, and a pianist called Jeff Labes, I remember, and I said it to Van when I got to know Van later on. I said, Jeff Labes was a great pianist. And he goes, yeah. So we were talking about what a great pianist he was, and how well he came over, on the record and different things. So I was already trying to make up my mind about stuff like that when I was a morose young guy in the audience wishing he was up on the stage. And I must have been just a pain to be unemployed and wishing I was playing the guitar up on the stage like John Platania, for Van Morrison, and so it kind of happened, and then I found myself in the studio and be playing the guitar, and Van's coming through the headphones singing "Cleaning Windows,"
Yes.
So that's a great circular moment.
Yeah, the heroes became friends, didn't they?
Yeah,
in many cases.
The music game has given me a lot of circular moments like that, where all the pieces come back around and seem to fit. And there's Hank Marvin is playing, it's doing your encores with you, and he's playing Going Home, whatever. And those kind of moments that happen, And I remember actually the biggest circular moment of all was probably one of the biggest circular moments was I was doing a television special with Chet Atkins and in Nashville and at Vanderbilt, and it was being televised, and the Everly Brothers were guests, and as well as other guests, and Emmylou and people. But the Evs came on, and there I was on stage backing up the Evs in the band. I was in the house band, and so me and Chet were in the band, and we're backing up the Evs. Yeah. And wow, and I thought, wow, but they were singing a song that I'd written, called "Why Worry," which we used to call "Why Bother." But, it's kind of overwhelming. The circular moment comes round.
Yeah.
And you go back to all the times in childhood when you were one Everly brother and your little mate Vince was the other Everly brother, and I'd spent hours and hours playing those 45s that belonged to his big sister.
Yes.
And big sisters are very important in the education of musicians, I think, and very important. Maybe education of anything, I think they probably are the most important teachers in the world. Yeah.
Probably got time for one more question, Mark, which is from Ken Groker. This is actually, you mentioned Going Home. Of course, we've had the amazing multi-star new version of that track, for which I think you and Guy Fletcher get an extra round of applause. Incredible new recording of it.
That was Guy. I mean, Guy, he's a great editor, and I said, Guy, is this thing, music coming in from everywhere. And it was all great. How do we keep this short? And then Guy managed it brilliantly. And so this was for the teen cancer thing in America and the teenage cancer charity over here. And it was another circular for me because, we'd paid for the first teenage cancer ward in Middlesex Trust and in Middlesex 30 years ago, and then of course Roger Daltrey and others had handled it all, taken on the job of supporting the charity and then expanded it and everything else, and the first person through the door was Pete Townsend with a guitar and an amp, and just whoa. And I'm a huge Townsend fan of, his guitar playing. I love it. And the chords ringing through the studio, and that was just great. And we were just away from there. Next day was Eric Clapton came in, and he's played before. And, Al was sang great, and everybody was great. And then Jeff Beck had sent a piece from his studio, and that was just so moving. It was beautiful guitar playing, and Jeff was on a level on a place of his own, and it was wonderful, and it just went on from there. I mean, I'd come in, and Bruce Springsteen is sent in a big thing from the States, and Joe Bonamassa, and you name it. That everybody was sending in, and it was all good. It was all great. I mean, Joe Brown did a wonderful piece on a mandolin, bless him, Joe, and he's still the same as when I saw him at Newcastle City Hall when I was 15. Yeah. And he's still the same, Joe. He hasn't changed one bit. He's just fantastic. And a great little solo.
That's one of my favourite bits, actually, the mandolin. Yeah. Ken's question was actually about, and he mentions the movie Local Hero, from which Going Home came, of course. And it was when you get asked to write the music for a film, where do you start?
Well, I never get asked.
Daunting stuff. It's been a little while, isn't it?
No, I know. I don't. I'm not in that game. You know. I think what happened with scores is that I just got lucky with Local Hero, and there was an arrangement whereby I kept the copyright of the music, and that just seems, to me, it just became the way that it seemed to me that's the way it should stay. Yeah. But, you know, the way that they do it now, if anybody out there is a film composer, they'll know that what you do is you take a fee and you give the copyright to the film company, and they all want that. They all want to expand, and they all want to own this stuff, own things, you know. So I didn't want to do that. I just didn't want to give those things, you know, away, and then wake up one morning and see an advert on TV, you know, for something you might find in a bathroom, and it's something you've written for a film, you know.
I was sensing that your soundtrack writing days might be behind you.
Yeah, I think so. With the accent on behind. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah.
But more songwriting certainly awaits, doesn't it? I mean, this is a tap that won't turn off. It's just so productive.
You know, I just think I was writing a lot, because what else can you know, you know, I was having a lovely life. I mean, the last 30 years has just gone by in a flash, and the older I get, the faster it all goes. And I'm supposed to have a meeting with my accountant once a year, and every time I see him, I said, "I only saw you 3 or 4 months ago." He said, "No." You know, it's really going that fast. It seems to me that the older I get, it's on a genuine accelerator. And when I was doing double physics on a Friday afternoon, when I was in my teens at school, you know, it just seemed that 2 hours seemed to be 2 years, you know. And it's funny. And that's what happens when you're having fun. Time flies. Yeah.
Well, we tell you, we're still having fun. This is a wonderful new record. Congratulations on it, Mark. We've got we've got 3 video treats for you. A couple you may have seen before, and then before that, we're going to have the world premiere of the lead song from the Boy EP. So we'll leave you with that, and let me say thank you so much to Mark Knopfler.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you.